I think where a lot of beginners get hung up is thinking that you need to treat your plants as individuals rather than a collective of plants that you're taking care of. This is what I mean. Welcome to the Rooted in Growth podcast, a podcast dedicated to cultivating personal growth, digging deep, and blossoming into the best version of ourselves. When I started out as a plant parent, I remember that I had this Monstera and it was one of my favorite plants. It was one of my first plants and I pretty much almost killed it. It was suffering from root rot because the soil that it came in like a 1-gallon pot, was a, fairly big pot that it came in, but the soil that it came in was retaining a lot of moisture and the top layer was drying out and I wasn't realizing that it was retaining a lot of moisture on the bottom. It was in a black nursery pot. I couldn't see anything. I just kept watering it because I was like, wow, like the soil is drying out very fast. Let me just keep watering it. And I was watering it probably like every 3 days until I started seeing signs that something was wrong. Of course, the leaves started yellowing rapidly. It was not looking healthy anymore. And I was freaking out. I was worrying about what was wrong. And I Googled, and the first thing that popped up was you are probably overwatering your plants. Overwatering or underwatering. I remember that. Could have been the two causes of yellowing leaves with the Monstera. Okay, cool. So then I did my first repotting, which was a horror show. I just found some steps online of, how to repot your plants. And I did that. I took it out of the soil. I got some new potting soil. I didn't know about, amending your soil or putting things in it at that time. So I kind of just put it basically back in the same dense soil that it was in. And I, of course, cut off all the root rot. I did the hydrogen peroxide treatment. I let it sit out and callus. I followed those instructions that I found online to a T. And I remember also, in Facebook groups at the time, that was a big thing, having these plant Facebook groups. I think I had asked in this Monstera group, it was one that was focused on Monsteras alone, about, what was going on. People were giving me, their ideas. And of course, you're seeing just a ton of comments. When you're asking for advice, you're seeing a ton of comments of what people think may be the cause, but they don't fully know what's going on. You're trying to explain to them in detail what it could have been, what got it from being healthy to this point. Again, they still don't know fully what's going on. I remember someone recommended this Monstera houseplant food. It was literally labeled as a product solely for Monsteras. Again, like a nutrient source for them. And I bought it. Of course, as a beginner, you fall into all of that. Anything that someone recommends that says this is for a specific issue or specific plant or whatever, you buy into that. And I get that. And so I bought it and it was this blue liquid. And of course I read the instructions, did all the things, and it wasn't necessarily helping my plant. Of course, when a plant is suffering through severe root rot, you don't want to do too much to it. And of course, at the time I was a beginner, I didn't understand that. I'm just thinking that this little magical bottle of Monstera plant food was going to be the solution to what was going on with my Monstera. Of course, that wasn't the case. My Monstera went through, I would say, a few months before it showed any sign of recovery. I mean, the leaves that got really wrinkled, it was just super stressed. It was droopy. It was just not happy. And I couldn't just let it go. Now, as an experienced plant parent, if a plant cannot get right in this house, it's in the trash. And I hate to say that, but I'm just at a point in my life where if it doesn't bring me peace, they gotta go. It's a problem. At that time, I was very much willing to fight the good fight and just figure out what I could do to get my Monstera back to the condition that I bought it in. And I will never forget that because now, as a plant parent, as a one that is a bit more experienced, I don't individualize my plants. I've realized that over the years, plants are highly adaptable, and I think we don't give them enough credit for that. And when it comes to the plants in my home, I always get questions from a lot of beginner plant parents that are like, what is the best soil for a Monstera? What is the best fertilizer for my alocasia? What kind of lighting should I put my philodendron in? And it's always been so hard for me as a creator. I mean, I used to definitely try to individualize it for people that would ask, but as I have grown as a plant parent, I have realized that I do not individualize the care of my plants. They are a collective and they all get the same thing. The only thing that they get differently is the lighting. And that is because in my home, I have natural light. I have windows on all four sides of my home. I'm very blessed to have that now. When I started, I didn't have that. I was definitely utilizing a lot of grow lights and whatever bright window I could put a plant in. But now that I have all of this natural light, the only difference is where they are placed in my home. All of them are pretty much in the same soil or pretty much getting the same watering schedule. You know, I water my plants once a week. Typically, sometimes I may be watering them twice a week, depending, but they're all getting the same care relatively, and no one is getting any kind of special treatment. The only plants that do get special treatment are ones that I know may be highly sensitive to the water that I have, the tap water that I use. They may get distilled water because I don't want the leaves to look, raggedy. Outside of that, though, when it comes to fertilizer, soil, all of these things, I do not individualize the care. And it's honestly sometimes challenging as a content creator because I want to try products for you and let you know my experience. But I usually always go back to the one thing or the few things that have worked for me because I am such a creature of habit. I like to just stay within the realm of if it works, it's like the saying, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I really do love using the same products. I really feel like it enhances the life of my overall plants because I'm not switching it up too much. Think about like with your pets. And I hate to use this example, but at the same time, I think about my dog who I cannot switch up his food just like that. He would have a sensitive stomach. He would get sick. I can't just keep switching things up for him. He's on a routine. He loves the same thing. He doesn't mind it. His stomach doesn't mind it. I, in some ways, feel like plants are the same. Like if it's not broke, I don't try and fix it. Now, if I want to try out a new product again for my community, I absolutely will. I'll try and use it for 6 months at least to get a really good read on how it is affecting my plants. But typically, again, I always go back to the same thing. I have a closet full of products from companies that have sent me a ton of things that I just haven't had the capacity to try and use because a lot of times also, one, it's like hard to get a full understanding and result of if that product really made a difference when your plants are already healthy. Two, a lot of the products that are out there on the market are all geared toward the same thing, and that's to help your plant in whatever capacity that is. Grow lights help your plants grow with supplemental lighting. Fertilizer give your plants nutrients and the food that they need to continue to grow. Soil is a substrate that can grow your plants in, one of many, but they all have like a common denominator, and that is to just help your plants grow. I say that because when it even comes to lighting, yes, some plants would prefer more lighting than others. Yes, some plants can tolerate less lighting than others, but they all are still okay with whatever lighting you can provide them. Again, plants are highly adaptable. And if it is something where you're seeing there are some issues with what you're giving them, of course you can change it up. Of course you can maybe amplify the thing that they need. If it's more lighting, if it's different nutrients or whatever. But at the end of the day, if I were to just cut out all the noise, I live a very simple, peaceful life. I have really worked hard to earn the way that I get to live and even the plants that I get to take care of. But at the same time, I have to keep it simple when it comes to these plants, especially when you get up into hundreds and hundreds of plants. Me, myself, some of your other favorite creators, when you get over a certain threshold, everything is the same. You are not taking out one fertilizer for a certain plant and then doing something different for another plant. At least not in this household. And I would say, most other creators with a lot of plants don't do that either. There may be some special situations, but I just feel like as a beginner, you don't have to get so caught up in the individualizing of a plant and its care. I would rather you pick a genus of plants. So say it's a pothos. Get a whole bunch of pothos. There's different varieties out there and master that plant, understanding that all of those pothos are going to take in the same thing and be okay. Then you go to another genus like a philodendron, master that, learn all about it, figure out what works in your home, not necessarily what is working for the plant, because at the end of the day, like, they're living in your home. They have to adapt to your lifestyle as much as you are helping them adapt to everything else. they have to adapt to your lifestyle. And I think as a beginner, we get very caught up in kind of going out of our way for our plants. And I definitely was like that. Don't get me wrong. Like I had not traveled because I didn't want to leave my plants for a certain amount of days. I didn't want to give my plants like certain things because I didn't want them to like react to certain, like, again, at the end of the day, the plants that you bring into your home are adapting to your lifestyle, to your environment, to what you can afford to give them, the capacity that you have for them, the skill set that you have built thus far. And I don't feel as though you need to individualize the care. I don't want you to stress yourself about doing that because I don't. And if you're someone that follows me for like all of my tips and how to get from point A to point B and get the results that you want, I'm telling you, you do not have to individualize the care. I have Ziggy, y'all's favorite. He's an alocasia. He's getting the same thing as Sully right across from him. That is a Monstera. Melon, another Monstera, is getting from these new ficuses that were just brought into my home a couple of days ago. We'll be getting the same care. And they all do fine. So I just don't want you to stress about it. And I want you to get into the mindset of looking at plants as a collective, as a collection that they can all, at some point, get in the same rhythm of watering. They can use the same fertilizer and nutrients most times. They can be in the same substrate. Some may be slightly more chunky than others. Some may be slightly more dense, but it's all the same. And those are the main three things that they need is just lighting, nutrients, water, and I guess that's more than three. But that is the main things that they need: lighting, nutrients, water, and a substrate to live in. And your care and your energy and your support and just helping them do what they are designed to do, which is grow. They know what to do. They got it together. We're just here to support them. That's it. That's all I got. Hopefully you enjoy this episode of the podcast and let me know, do you treat your plants individually or do you see them as a collective?